Yeah, okay. Robert Pignon? He's absent. Patrick Schaefer, are you here?
He might chime in later.
Okay. Cindy Sharkey? Fine.
I'm here.
You. Phil Cardenas?
Yep, here.
How do you say your last name?
Cardenas.
Cardenas. Okay. Diane Turner, just oh no, Anna just walked in. Diane's here. Laurie Stringham, we saw online.
I'm here.
Okay. Tom DeSerrant.
Byron,
Right?
here.
Oh, there you are. Online. Eric Barney. Online. Keith Zushman here. And Anna Barbieri's here. Great, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We'll go ahead and get started. Item number 1 is welcome to the board member is Laurie Stringham from Salt Lake County Council. We're excited to have you on board, Laurie. It's like we need to still get you sworn in, but as soon as we have a notary here present, we'll get you sworn in, and we're excited for you to be part of our board and our team here.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. And then we have item number 2, the consent item. We have 2.1, which is the February 28, 2022 board meeting minutes. I'll look for a motion or any comments on that.
I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion for approval by Diane.
Second.
I'll second that.
Second by Ann. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that passes. We'll go on to item number 3, meeting open for public comment. Go ahead and open our meeting to public comments. Is there anybody here? There's nobody here that I believe wants to make public comments. Is there anybody online? No, we're good. Okay, doesn't appear that we have any public comments for today, so we'll move on into our business items. 4.1 is recognition of resolution for retiring board member. Oh, let's see. Sorry, I apologize. Jim is going to join us late, and so we're going to move item number 4.1 to the end of our agenda so that Jim can be with us when we do that recognition. I don't have to have a minute. Do you have to have it? Okay. All right, 4.2 is 2021 customer satisfaction survey results and employee survey results. Guests from Y2 Analytics. I'm going to let you introduce them if that's okay, Pam.
You bet. I believe we have both Kyrene. I see Emily is on. Emily Shriel. And you're mute. There we go.
Yes, I'm
Hi,
here. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not seeing Kyrene yet, though. So I'm going to ping her really quick and make sure that she's hopping on.
Okay. And when you're ready, you can share your screen for the survey results.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Give me 1 minute and I'll grab Kyrene.
Rolling so quickly. I guess. No, you're. I think they had a minute with Jim.
Yeah, my bad. I should have announced that first.
Sherry, don't be moving. We want to take as much time as we good as people as possible.
That's right. Come on, slow down. That's right. Oh. It is a little tricky with people online though, because sometimes you pass them and it's like, oh, sorry, I forgot to give you enough time. Yeah, but there's a little delay. If any of you want to sing a song to us or anything in the meantime, feel free to break out into song.
Do a two-step.
Special requests?
Yeah, sorry about the delay, everyone. Kyrene had a meeting go over this morning, so she's just hopping on now. and should be here very shortly. Thanks for your
That's
patience in the meantime. And I would love to hear a song if someone has one prepared.
Unfortunately, the only ones I know are karaoke and probably not appropriate, so.
Those are the best kind.
Should probably hold auditions before we just open this to the floor.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Laura's in the theater either.
My background is technical theater, so.
Yeah.
So you really could entertain us.
Probably on too many levels, so we probably ought to keep that under wraps.
What shows have you been in?
Oh geez, I've been in quite a few shows. Joseph Amazing Technicolor, Dreamcoat, Casablanca, Still Magnolias, things like that. But they were all when I were younger. Mostly I make people look good now. That's my job. So I could enhance any of you to perform and no problem. And it looks like lining up lip syncing, so there you go.
All right. Kyrene, are you ready to go? Looks like you joined us.
I have joined. So sorry I'm running a few minutes behind this morning.
That's fine. Thanks for joining.
Of course. My pleasure. Let me go ahead and pull up. I'm going to start with the customer experience survey since we conducted that one first. So we'll run through the highlights there, and then we'll move into the employee experience survey results.
Okay.
Let me just make sure this will let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Very good.
All right. So we will dive right in here with some high-level key findings. So first of all, I think it is worth noting that overall customer satisfaction is incredibly high. Working in market research and public opinion, it's rare that you see something where people express this strong levels of agreement or satisfaction. So overall customer satisfaction at 94% is truly remarkable. And it seems like this is something that has been an ongoing trend for the district for quite some time. So really commendable in terms of customers' overall satisfaction with the district's performance. 95% of customers indicate that they are satisfied with garbage collection specifically, and 93% indicate that they're satisfied with recycling collection specifically. So really high marks across the board here. Our second sort of overall theme, our drivers receive really high marks as well, as do district staff members. So when we're looking at individual interactions with drivers, how drivers are sort of behaving within neighborhoods, whether they're driving responsibly and being courteous within our customer neighborhoods, we have really high satisfaction there as well. And then for the website, we have 93% overall satisfaction, and we have just under half of customers indicating that they're using the website regularly to pay their bills. So there is room to grow that online audience and maybe streamline things for customers, but for those who are using the website, they're really satisfied with that tool. The area cleanup program this year received an 86% satisfaction rating. This is down a little bit since, well, when we look at prior to the pandemic and sort of the shift to trailer reservation for the area cleanup program has certainly had some implications for customer satisfaction, but overall pretty high satisfaction ratings here. And some of the individual aspects of that range from 82 to 95%. So again, not really a problem area, just it's been different over the last couple years, and change tends to be something that causes a ripple. So this is something where we are seeing relatively lower ratings. When we ask customers if they have rented a trailer for either bulk waste pickup or green waste pickup in the past year, we have just over 1 in 10 respondents who indicate that they've used this service. But again, among those who have used the trailer rental services, they rate them quite highly. And 85 to 89% of those who've rented trailers indicate that they're likely to recommend that process to a neighbor. Finally, glass recycling. We have relatively low familiarity with that service, just 44%, so shy of half of our respondents indicate that they're aware that the district provides glass recycling services. But again, among those who use it, we have really high satisfaction ratings. And just 5% of our customers indicate that they are current subscribers to glass recycling pickup, and only 14% of the remainder of the customers who are not subscribed indicate that they would be likely to do so. So this is another area where there may be some room for growth in that service vertical, and maybe some additional education would increase the interest in that service or subscription service. Before I get into any more of the details about the survey, we'll just do a quick look at the methodology. So we surveyed Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District customers via email, a postcard, or they could have accessed the survey via the district's social media or website. So we had a lot of channels for participation here. And in total, we received more than 3,000 customer responses, so 3,220 total. 1,183 of those were collected from customers who have email addresses on file with the district, while the remainder accessed the survey, again, either via that anonymous link that was distributed via the website and social media, or through the QR code that was provided on those printed postcard invitations that were sent out to all customer households, to a sample of customer households. And that 3,000 plus completed interviews results in a margin of error of about 1.7 percentage points. So we feel pretty confident that this represents the perspectives of the district as a whole. So really, again, positive ratings and a pretty comprehensive story here overall. So a quick look into the details. This is a glimpse at how our respondents broke down by service area. You can see the number of respondents in each service area sort of in the small text just inside the bars of that bar chart. And then we have a percentage breakdown as well. So we have 18% of our respondents coming from Mill Creek, 16% from Taylorsville, 13% from Harriman, 12% respectively from Cottonwood Heights and Kearns, 10% from Holiday, 9% from Magna, and then after that, fewer than 10% from all of our remaining service areas, just a handful of respondents in some of the smallest service areas, as we might expect. We also asked respondents how many people were in their household. On average, we have 2 to 3 household members for each of our responding households, but with some of our households, again, representing family sizes of 7 or more as well. So a good distribution there. We did not ask any additional demographic information or anything like that. This was really focused on anonymous customer experience. So jumping into the fun stuff now. Again, I alluded to this in our key findings, but overall satisfaction is incredibly high. We have 43% of customers who indicate that they're very satisfied, and a total of 94% of customers who say that they're satisfied with the services the district provides. You can see that broken out by service area on the right-hand side of the screen as well. We have some districts or some service areas in the district where customers are 100% satisfied. Or 100% of customers, rather, are satisfied. Again, really high marks overall, relatively lower satisfaction ratings in the Southwest, Brighton, and 4B Lane service areas, but really overall positive marks. We've indicated the areas here that have more than 30 respondents from the service area completing the survey, just so that you get a sense of which ones we feel the most confident represent customers in that area versus the ones where we know we're working with small sample sizes. So that's the only difference in the labels on that chart. But again, high satisfaction ratings overall. We asked respondents about particular aspects of their service, whether that's garbage collection or recycling collection. You can see a majority of our customers are very satisfied with both of those services. 58% very satisfied with garbage collection, 53% very satisfied with recycling collection. And then among the just shy of 1 in 4 customers who subscribe to weekly curbside green waste collection. We have 62% who strongly agree that they would recommend the service to their neighbors, and 61% who strongly agree that they are satisfied overall with the service. Again, more than 90% who agree in total with both of those statements. Looking at some of the questions we posed specifically to the Brighton and Big Cottonwood Canyon area residents, we asked about the collection facility for waste and recycling services. We have 17% who strongly agree and a total of 56% who agree that the collection facility is sufficient for their needs. 70% or 17%, excuse me, who strongly agree, and a total of 67% or 2/3 who in total who agree that the frequency of the waste and recycling pickup meets their needs, and 12% who strongly agree, a total of 59% who at least somewhat agree that the collection facility is well maintained. So for those residents who are using the collection facility rather than having the curbside pickup service, we have majority satisfaction, but certainly a little bit more room for improvement here as compared to those customers who are subscribed to weekly pickup. A quick look at customers' interactions with district staff, drivers specifically first. 64% of our customers strongly agree that the district drivers are collecting their waste or recycling each week on schedule. 96% in total agree with that statement. 50% strongly agree, and 97% in total agree that district drivers in their area are obeying traffic laws. 48% strongly agree, and again, a 94% in total agree that drivers are courteous. 47% strongly agree, and 92% in total agree that the drivers in the area are responsive and helpful. And 44% strongly agree, and 90% in total agree that district drivers are approachable. So really positive marks about drivers, the way that they're interacting with customers and the way that they're behaving and adhering to traffic laws. So really positive commendation there. We have just about 1 in 5 customers who say that they've spoken with a district staff member over the last year. When speaking with staff members, 56% of our customers strongly agree that the staff member was courteous, professional. 54% strongly agree that the staff member was helpful, knowledgeable, and addressed their concern in a timely manner. And 52% strongly agree that overall they were satisfied with the resolution of their concern. You can see we've highlighted a couple areas here where there's relative room for improvement. When we have, again, marks above 75 into the 80s and 90s for all of these measures, it certainly is all relative. But those areas that we've highlighted are in regards to whether the staff member was helpful and then overall satisfaction with the resolution of customers' concerns. And we understand that some customers' concerns can't be resolved. Some customers are looking for perhaps the impossible or just have a bone to pick with someone. So we can't satisfy everyone all of the time, but certainly really positive marks as far as interactions with district staff members as well. And we have half of customers who indicate that they've used the district website over the past year. And overall, those who have used the website are really satisfied with their experience. 38% strongly agree, and a total of 91% or 93% agree that they're able to find the information that they need on the district website. 34% strongly agree, and a total of 93% agree that they're satisfied with the district website overall. 33% strongly agree, and 91% total agree that the website is easy to navigate. And when we ask if they regularly use the website to pay their bill, here we have a little bit more division. So 45% of customers agree that they regularly use the website to pay their bill, and 55% indicate that they do not regularly use the website to pay their bill. So again, perhaps an opportunity to increase the utilization of that tool. Looking at some reviews of the area cleanup program this year, we had 20% of customers who indicated that they reserved an area cleanup container. And those who did reserve a container, 52% were very satisfied, and overall 86% were satisfied with the experience. Many of the customers who did not reserve a container indicated that they would like to see the area cleanup program return to the prior administration. So having a container stationed in the neighborhood that they could just go to, not have to reserve anything and have it placed in their driveway. There were comments about, again, just having containers in the street rather than in individual driveways. Even if someone reserved a container and it was available to their neighbors or made it available to their neighbors, just the placement in driveways caused some cosmetic concerns, caused some privacy concerns. So there is certainly a prevailing sentiment that many customers would like to see that return to the way it was administered previously. But again, those who participated and reserved a trailer this year overall are quite satisfied with the experience. We asked about the process of reserving an area cleanup container, how satisfied customers were with the pickup, drop-off, and time frame for use. You can see we have a majority of our customers who were very satisfied with both the pickup and drop-off process. But the time frame for use is a little bit more divisive. So just a third of customers were very satisfied with the time frame available for them, although a total of 84% or 82%, excuse me, were at least somewhat satisfied with that time that was available to them. So a little bit of room for improvement there, maybe some additional flexibility in the time frame that those trailers are available or the dates available for the reservations. Those are some of the things that we heard in the open-ended comments regarding area cleanup as well. And then a few more questions about that area cleanup process. We asked whether the driver that picked up the reserved area cleanup container was courteous and helpful. 98% of customers said yes. 97% of customers said that the driver that delivered their container was courteous and helpful. 90% of customers said that they did receive a postcard and understood which dates were available for their reservation. And 83% of customers indicated that they allowed or invited their neighbors to use their reserved container. Overall, customers found the reservation process for the area cleanup containers to be quite easy. 47% said it was very easy, and a total of 89% said that it was easy, just 11% indicating that they had some difficulty with that process. Shifting gears a little bit to talk about our other trailer services, we asked customers which, if any, of the following trailer rental services they've used over the past year. The green waste trailer, we had 3% of customers take advantage of that rental service. 3% of customers also took advantage of the bulk waste trailer rental. Among our Brighton, Big, Cottonwood Canyon, and Immigration area residents, we had 24% who reserved a trailer for the area cleanup program. That's less than 1% of the overall customer base, but again, among those service areas, that represents a fairly sizable share of our customers. And we had 89% of customers who did not reserve any of the trailers that come at additional fees with their service. Overall, though, among our area cleanup trailer customers in, again, those Brighton, Big, Cottonwood, and Immigration Canyon areas, 64% said that they were very satisfied with the overall experience. 55% were very satisfied with the reservation process. And again, the area where we see the most dissent or sort of mild satisfaction rather than enthusiastic satisfaction is in regards to the length of time for that trailer use. So 36% were very satisfied with the length of use for that cleanup trailer. We asked respondents how likely they were to recommend the green waste trailer to neighbors. So those who rented or reserved a green waste trailer, 89% are likely to recommend that to their neighbors. Overall, 62% very satisfied with the experience, 52% very satisfied with the length of time that was available for renting that green waste trailer. So this, I think, sort of shows some disparity between our green waste trailer and our bulk waste trailer compared to that area cleanup container or trailer. Customers are much more satisfied with the length of time that these lesser used trailers are available. Certainly demand is likely to correlate with that, but we do see more satisfaction with that aspect of the process for our green waste trailer. The cost of trailer rental, 51% indicate that they were very satisfied, and 49% were very satisfied with the reservation process. Again, overall, really high marks here for all aspects of green waste trailer use. Among those who used a bulk waste trailer, 85% indicate that they are likely to recommend the service or the use of that bulk waste trailer to their neighbors. Overall, 42% very satisfied with the experience, 89% total satisfied with the experience. 36% said that they were very satisfied with the reservation process. A total of 86% were at least somewhat satisfied. 35% were satisfied or very satisfied with the length of time they have for that bulk waste trailer. So again, some differences. The green waste trailer seems to have the highest levels of satisfaction with the time frame available, followed by our bulk waste trailer, and then the area cleanup trailers satisfaction with that time frame sort of lags a little bit here, relatively speaking. And then the cost of the bulk waste trailer rental, 31% of customers indicate they were very satisfied, 82% in total were satisfied with the cost of that service. Looking at glass services, we have 44% of customers who indicate that they're familiar with the district's glass recycling drop-off locations. So that does indicate that there's some room to increase education and awareness among our district customers. 56% don't know where those locations are. 5% of our customers indicate that they do currently subscribe to glass recycling pickup service from the district. And among those customers who are current subscribers, 64% are very satisfied, and a total of 91% are satisfied with that service. Again, among those who do not subscribe to glass recycling currently, 14% of customers indicate that they are at least some degree likely to subscribe to that service. So again, the potential to increase awareness, maybe increase some uptake of that particular service vertical. The last section of this particular report, I just want to show some overall trends that we see in the data over time. So for our overall customer satisfaction, you can see we have a pretty stable line there at 95 to 96% customer satisfaction overall, 94% from this year's customers. Statistically, this is a flat line. These are tied metrics, really, really positive marks. There's not a lot of room to go up with this line, so we're glad to see it not going down. When we're looking at satisfaction with the area cleanup program, you can see when we look at the ratings from all customers last year and that first shift to the reservation process in 2020, we had a pretty dramatic dip from an 82% satisfaction in the prior year to a 59% satisfaction in 2020. But when we look at that number just among participants, so again, just among those who did reserve an area cleanup program container, that number is a lot more comparable to the number we've seen in the past. That satisfaction among those who used the area cleanup containers in 2020 was an 88, and this year we're in an 87. So again, pretty consistent ratings over time. Even among those participants specifically, we actually improve a little bit compared to prior years. And then looking at our garbage collection services, again, really stable, positive line there between 95 and 96% over time. Recycling collection is pretty similar here. We're at 93%. We were at 94% last year. Pretty stable line there as well. And looking at satisfaction with the green waste trailer reservation or collection, 94%. Again, fairly stable ratings over time. Similarly, green waste trailers, 92%, consistent with 2020's evaluations. So overall, I think it's safe to say that customers are quite satisfied with the district's services.
Okay. Thank you, Kyrene. And did you want to go for the employee survey?
Yes, I will pull that up right now and we'll shift gears. Okay. So jumping into this one, Again, starting with a few key findings. Overall ratings from employees of the district are quite positive as well. So we have all of our key employee metrics above 60% positive. 87% of our employees indicate that they would recommend the district as a good place to work, and 90% say that they're satisfied with their employment. Most of these metrics have either improved or remained constant since last year, and we'll look at some of the areas where those differ over time. I think we have some positive indicators and some areas for potential improvement, and we'll highlight those here as well. So starting with the greatest strengths of the organization, we asked employees what they would point to specifically. And some of the greatest strengths that they highlight are the people and the teams at the district. So we have really positive evaluations of employees' coworkers, really positive views on cooperation, respect, and willingness to help out. And then in regards to, again, just the overall environment that we have at the district, employees really rave about that sort of supportive employee setting. Some of the areas that employees point to as potential needs for improvement are focused on communication. So specifically, we have employees indicating that communication between managers and supervisors could be improved. Sort of the path of information flowing from employees to upper management and vice versa could be improved over time. So we see that employees are interested in having more open environment for communication and an opportunity to safely and comfortably raise areas of concern where they might have them. We also find that some employees indicated that they would like to see more recognition for the work that they do and more accountability for the work as well. So those are seen as really two sides of the same coin, that accountability and recognition. It's more difficult for employees to feel recognized when they do a good job if they don't feel that they're being held accountable or recognized for whether the work is getting done or not. So that's also an area where there seems to be a little bit of room for improvement. All of these things, again, I think sort of hinge on that communication across levels of the organization. And then we asked a couple questions just briefly of employees about COVID-19 and their vaccination status. We first asked employees if they would be willing to share with us whether they have received the COVID-19 vaccine. Just under half of employees indicate that they have been vaccinated. And among those who either have not been vaccinated or declined to tell us, we have only about 1 in 4 who said that they would likely to be vaccinated if there were an incentive provided. So not a lot of interest there in potential vaccination, even if there were an incentive. Definitely some reluctance to share that information. Again, a quick look at methodology before we get into the rest of the details here. So this survey was distributed via email invitation and text message invitation to the district's employees. We had a total of 53 employees respond to the survey, which gives us a response rate of about 60%. We didn't include any in-person interviewing or administration of the survey this year, which is likely the reason for that slight decline in response rate. But overall, we're really satisfied with the responses that we have, and this is a good look at the sentiments of employees in total. I will say that for most employee surveys for organizations that are larger, getting above 50% for an employee experience survey is quite a remarkable feat. So industry standard wise, this feels pretty good, even though for a small organization, every interview does sort of carry a bit more weight when we're thinking about those response rates. So diving into our overall satisfaction ratings among employees, or overall ratings among employees, we have 52% of our employees who have worked for the district for 5 or more years. And that's a really good, that retention measure is a good measure of satisfaction as well. So an indirect measure a bit, but when we ask employees whether they're likely to recommend the district as a good place to work, a total of 87% say that they're likely and 57% are very likely. So there is certainly some sentiment of loyalty and satisfaction, and again, that retention rate shows that level of satisfaction with the organization. We asked employees how often they feel stressed at work. We have 38% of our employees who say that they feel stressed on a daily basis, 38% respectively who say once or twice a week, and then 17% who say they're stressed only about once or twice a month. I mentioned this to Pam earlier, but I would love to know what role those 6% who say they don't feel stressed at work are doing. I would love to apply for that job. But overall, pretty positive marks there. We asked some general questions about employment with the district. 59% strongly agree that they're satisfied with their employment at the district. A total of 90% at least somewhat agree. 48% strongly agree that they receive adequate compensation for the responsibilities that they're given. This is one of the areas where we might expect to see a little bit more dissenting opinion than we do. Just 22% of respondents disagree that they're compensated adequately. So this is a really good indicator that employees feel at least financially valued in the work that they're doing. And again, the retention rate, these satisfaction ratings that we're seeing are likely really tied to that. That's something that in the industry, looking at employee experience, we would call a hygiene measure. If we saw a large portion of employees who were dissatisfied with the compensation package, we would likely see a lot less employee retention, higher turnover, less satisfaction overall. But so this is a really good indicator that those basic needs are being met. Employees feel fairly compensated for the work that is expected of them. 41% of employees strongly agree, and a total of 78% agree that their career goals can be met at the district. Again, a pretty positive indicator that there is some room for growth or at least achievement of goals. And then we asked specifically about whether the district offers career growth opportunities. Relatively lower agreement here, but still a majority of respondents at least somewhat agree that the district does offer career growth opportunities. A third of our respondents strongly agree with that sentiment. 30% disagree with that sentiment in total. Again, it's one of those things where certainly the perceptions of whether there are growth opportunities available is directly related to the position that our employees are in now. There may be less perception of upward mobility for a driver, for example, than someone who's working in the district offices. So some difference there, a relative area of dissent, but again, overall really positive marks as far as employees' overall experience. Shifting gears just a little bit here to look at employees' role and their perception of the organization's mission. We asked employees whether they understood how their work directly contributes to the success of the district, and 78% strongly agree that they understand how they play a part in that overall success. 98% total agree with that sentiment. Being able to see how each individual employee's piece fits into that puzzle is a really strong indicator of employee satisfaction. So this is a really positive mark. 58% also strongly agree that they're extremely proud to tell people that they work for the district. A total of 90% agree with that statement as well. And 56% strongly agree, a total of 98% at least somewhat agree that they are aware of and understand the district's mission. So understanding the mission that the organization has for itself, for its customers, and understanding how they play a part in that mission is something that is really widely accepted across our employee base. Again, I think this is a really positive indicator of sort of that satisfaction and some of the softer aspects of employee experience. Asking a few questions about some of the day-to-day aspects of our employees' jobs. 59% of our employees strongly agree that they have access to the material resources they need to do their work properly. 55% strongly agree that the pace of their work in the organization enables them to do a good job. So they understand their role, they feel they're given adequate time and compensation to accomplish the tasks at hand. And then we fall below 50% of employees who strongly agree, although again, we're still at a majority agreeing in total, but just shy of half of our employees strongly agree that when they do a good job, they receive the praise and recognition they deserve. A little bit of room for improvement there. And then 39% of employees strongly agree, a total of 70% at least somewhat agree, that employees at the district are held accountable for the quality of work they produce. Again, I see this really as two sides of the same coin, and one of the key ways to address this potential area for improvement is going to be increased communication across levels of the organization. We asked employees whether they feel secure with their job at the district. 54% strongly agree, and 94% total agree that they do feel secure. So that's good news as well. 49% of employees strongly agree that the district works to attract, develop, and retain people from diverse backgrounds. A total of 88% of employees agree with that sentiment. And 40% strongly agree, a total of 76%, or 3 out of 4, at least somewhat agree that the management team understands the daily problems we face with our jobs. Again, potential opportunity for improvement here. And I think, again, the answer is communication. The management team and the rest of the organization sort of seeing eye to eye, having those conversations and communicating those things is likely the answer to that sort of 24%, or 1 in 4 who disagree with that sentiment. So looking at communication specifically and just sort of doubling down on this theme, 37% of employees strongly agree, and a total of 61% employees agree that they are comfortable speaking up at work, even when bringing up problems or tough issues. You can see 38% of employees somewhat disagree or strongly disagree with that sentiment. So creating an environment that fosters more open, comfortable communication is an area where we can improve. 31% of employees strongly agree, and a total of 68% at least somewhat agree that 68%, just checking my numbers here, agree that they feel encouraged to share new ideas regarding work with teammates and managers. We have 27% who somewhat disagree, and a total of 1/3 who disagree with that sentiment, with 6% strongly disagreeing. So again, sharing new ideas, being comfortable speaking up at work, and then finally, our question about whether information and knowledge are shared openly within the organization. 29% of employees strongly agree that it is, and we have a total of 64% of employees who at least somewhat agree that it is. But again, 37%, or just over 1/3 of employees, indicate that this also is an area for potential improvement. So overall, communication is the area that seems to be sort of lagging behind the rest of the aspects of employee experience. On the far opposite side of the coin here, when it comes to employees' evaluations of their coworkers, I can't imagine more glowing reviews, truly. So 96% of employees indicate that the people they work with cooperate to get the job done. 98% of employees agree that their coworkers treat them with respect. And 94% of employees agree that they can count on their coworkers when they need help. And the vast majority of all of these positive sentiments are in that strongly agree, enthusiastic category. So really, really positive perceptions of the work environment facilitated by the coworkers and the people in this organization. You can see when we ask employees in their own words what the greatest strengths of the district are, people are one of the main things that come up here. The most frequently mentioned word overall was benefits. And you can see we pulled out a few of the comments verbatim from our employees here. So good benefits, competitive pay, and an enjoyable work environment. That was really illustrative of a lot of the comments we saw. The work hours, the benefits, and the people who I work with on a daily basis. And another employee said how everyone is willing to do whatever they can to help when help is needed, no matter the task. This includes everyone from the top down. And you can see that really shining through in this word cloud. So management, teamwork, people, leadership, drivers, team, employees, all of these things are themes that come up very frequently in the positive or shining aspects of working at the district, in addition to the benefits package, which again, many people mentioned. So lots of satisfaction there. And then when we ask employees what the areas are that are most in need of improvement at the district, communication is the most frequently mentioned word here. So this is the thing that comes up the most. Communication between employees in the office and employees out on the road, management and supervisors needing to be on the same page. And then another employee mentioned, and again, this was sort of illustrative of one of the themes we saw, better training, more recognition to the people that go above and beyond, mostly the drivers. So again, that communication throughout levels of the organization and facilitating an opportunity to both recognize and hold employees accountable seems to be something that employees would really like to see. Looking at some of these evaluations over time, so you can see overall employee satisfaction is really at that high watermark, pretty consistent with 2020's 91% satisfaction. Again, a 1 percentage point difference is statistical noise here, so I'm going to say that we're tied with 2020's rating. In regards to the share of employees who understand their role in the success of the organization, 98% is our high watermark there. It was 97% in 2016. Overall, really positive high levels of agreement with that sentiment. But again, that 98 is pretty astounding to me. And then whether employees have access to resources. You can see in 2020, that number really peaked. 95% of employees said that they had access to the material resources they needed, which I think speaks to the district's response to the pandemic and making sure that our employees sort of out on the road had access to the PPE they needed, that people were still able to safely do their jobs. 88% still agree that they have access to the resources they need this year. That's a little closer to consistent with what we've seen in prior years, but still up from 2019. So overall, really positive trend lines here. And then here's just a quick glimpse at how some of these other numbers compare over time. You can see that most of the metrics in this table have improved rather than stayed stable or declined over time. There are a lot more green arrows on the far right side of the screen than there are red. The areas where we do see declines, again, we talked about the access to material resources really being sort of closer to the average and still an improvement compared to that 2019 number. But the other area where we do see a significant decline is in regards to whether employees are comfortable speaking up at work, even when bringing up problems or tough issues. That's down to 61% compared to 69% in 2020 and 65% in 2019. So overall, again, communication, I'll try not to beat that dead horse anymore, but that does seem to be the area that employees point to for potential improvement. A quick look at the evaluation of the executive team. So we first asked employees whether they've worked with the executive team in the past year, and similar questions were asked about individual members of the executive team. We've aggregated those results here rather than identify any one member of the executive team. So you can see in the aggregate, overall, about 3 out of 4 of our employees give the executive team excellent ratings in regards to being approachable and responsive to concerns, respecting the members of the team at the district, leading by example, and treating all employees fairly. So really positive marks here. You can see over 90% giving above average ratings for most of those. And where we do see some potential room for improvement, we have 3% who say that our executive team needs some improvement in regards to treating all employees fairly, and 1% who indicate that there needs to be some significant improvement in that regard. Again, overall, really positive experiences here working with the executive team. Some of the open-ended comments that came out from employees: majority of the leaders are kind, respectful, and good at what they do. Many leaders go out of their way to make the district a positive workplace. And on the other side of things here, some leaders play favorites. So again, sort of going right in line with what we see in response to those close-ended questions in regards to potential areas for improvement. And then the last set of questions here was in regards to COVID-19 vaccination status. 48% of our employees say that they are currently vaccinated, 21% indicate that they are not, and 31% preferred not to state whether they were vaccinated or not. And then when we ask those employees who did not report being vaccinated, so those who are not currently vaccinated or declined to say, we have just 24% who said that they would be at least somewhat likely to be vaccinated if an incentive were provided by the district. Again, a lot of reluctance there. More than half say that an incentive would not influence their decision to be vaccinated at all. And that concludes our whirlwind tour of the customer and employee experience data. Any questions?
Thanks so much for that presentation. We really appreciate all the work and the way you've presented this. So we'll just open it up to the board for any questions on anything that we've seen here. I'll ask a question. Communication obviously was the highlight as far as, I mean, I shouldn't say that. There was a lot of really good information here. I think as a whole, the district is doing quite well. If you look at ways of improvement, they seem to all kind of circle back around to communication. I can tell you that based on any other board I've been on, it's all been the exact same issue, just coming back to communication. I'm sure a lot of it was because there was a lack of that for a long time. There was a lack of any kind of social interaction with employees and things like that because of the pandemic. But what are we doing to try and maybe increase or improve upon these so that people do feel like they can? I think it's really important that when we have workers, especially, you know, they're out there, they're doing the job, and if they come back with ideas or things, they have to be able to really express that and be able to share that. That's really important. So kind of help me understand what we're doing on the communication side.
You bet, yeah. So this year's with the numbers going down as far as COVID goes, and just so you know, last year we did have small meetings, but it may not have been the form that we've done before. Like, for example, the monthly recognition celebrations that we would do in-house with everybody coming in, and, you know, I host it, so I buy breakfast and tell everybody thank you, and that gives everybody a forum to be recognized. So in 2020 and 2021, I did videos. But I think in 2020 they went over a little bigger than they might have in 2021, plus there might not have been as many. So this year we have group gatherings, so they're smaller, and David Icka, here over, he's our operations manager, and Dustin Bradshaw is our new waste and special services manager. They're all hosting morning meetings, and then David, I think it's been starting a couple weeks ago, you had each group coming in. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so we're just meeting with teams individually, and started last week, Monday, and just getting a forum going on feedback with how safety's going, and you know, it's been an issue with communication over the last 2 years, and it's been good to get some feedback from our drivers, good and bad. So yeah, we've got a lot of picking up to do.
So we're giving them that forum once again. So I hope to see that improve this year.
Awesome.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what was the cost of this?
I'm trying to remember. I think it's right around 20, and it's for both the customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and then there's been some extra work that we've had them do. And so we weighed the cost. In the past, we had we would hire a part-time seasonal person to come in and do these, but there was a lot of time that was spent by myself and our Anthony in the past. So we took the cost benefit of putting this out for third party and have it totally removed, so the perception wasn't we had an employee here in-house doing it and we had an outside party doing the survey. So right around 20 is my recollection, which was actually a little cheaper if we put everything together of all the time.
Are these yearly, Pam?
Yes, we do this every, November is the customer, and then December is generally the employee survey.
So you feel like you got the best bang for your buck?
Yes, yes, especially with not having to spend so much time on it.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Yeah, Kyrene and Emily, you did a wonderful job with both, and I thank you.
You know, I think one of my questions would be if the data seems to be very consistent from year to year, would you want to stretch that out to every other year?
For the customer?
For both?
Well, I guess we could. I've never thought about that, so certainly we could think about it. I enjoy the employee feedback annually. It helps. I started that in 2007 under the division and wanted to keep that going so that I can continually get that feedback, because I think it is a safe place for people to let me know
Absolutely.
how we're doing. So, but the customer one, perhaps, certainly willing to.
Especially if the services really don't change from year to year and our responses are sustained, maybe we don't need that, but leave that up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, the only one that seems like it's an adjustment is because it was an adjustment is the area cleanup.
Yes.
And I think that, I understand the concerns and stuff, but anytime there's change, there's going to be a ruffling of people being dissatisfied or things like that. And so it's good to know, you know, feedback on that a little bit. And so I don't know that there's, I mean, just myself individually, because of the numbers and driver situation, I'm not inclined to change anything on the area cleanup because of that. It's just, it's what makes practical sense for us in my view. The time available, I do have a question, seemed like that's the same amount of time the dumpsters were available on the street, other than if it came on the weekend.
Right.
Right? They were just
Right.
a 24-hour thing anyway, so that time is exactly the same, only you reserve it for your driveway versus the street.
Mm-hmm. And in the past, that was something that was a concern or something that has been expressed by our customers to improve that, to give them more time, even with on the street. But as you know, we have that time frame. If we were to give more time for those containers to be on the properties, that would mean less that we can reserve throughout the season.
And it seems like the longer you leave them out there, the more risk you run of being overflowing anyway.
Yeah.
Seems like that's, if it was on that weekend, they were always a mess by, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just so you know, with this reservation, it is Fridays that generally book up quickest. Our residents have figured out that they get that over the weekend or just before a holiday, they know that they get to keep it a little bit longer. They book the quickest. And we're starting in Harriman this year, so we've already started the reservation process.
I already have mine reserved.
All right. Cool.
Question along those lines. This is Councilman Barney from Magna. Anecdotally, I've heard a lot from my community about the dumpster cleanup program being the biggest dissatisfier. Anybody I talk to that finds out that I'm on this board, that's the first thing they say to me. So it's comforting to know that the data is supporting what I'm hearing anecdotally. When we talk about time frame, is it the amount of time that the dumpster is left at a person who's made a reservation, or is it the amount of time or window of opportunity that a specific community can make a reservation in that's the problem? Because I know, again, hearing anecdotally, it's not so much that I only have it for the 24 hours or whatever if I was able to reserve it. It's that I haven't been able to get it reserved because it's very limited and my community only gets maybe a week window to make a reservation where other communities have 2 or 3 weeks to make a reservation. Is there a distinction when we talk about time frame between those two things?
Kyrene and Emily, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the time frame of having it on their property. Is that correct?
So we did ask two separate questions in that regard. One about the time frame for which it was available for their reservation, and the window that they had to make a reservation, and another about the time frame that it was available for that reservation once it was made. So both of those were areas of relatively lower satisfaction compared to other aspects of the area cleanup program.
So knowing that, I know that because of driver limitations, the decision to not do just drop them off everywhere, but I'll do reservation system makes sense. But is there something we could address with this window or this time frame? Could we be a little creative there so that I'm not limited and my community is not limited to just that 1 week to make a reservation, that I'm competing quite heavily against everyone to get something? Just a thought.
For the reservation, just to ask for clarity, Board Member Barney, are you asking for more time to allow the reservation or more than the 1 week that we're in Magna?
More than the 1 week.
Okay.
So some variability or some options there.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Pam?
We
it's
could.
usually directly to the number of houses, right? How many people we have in each area. So about the only way to expand that time would be to, for example, then include Magna with someone that's close by or something like that. That would be a logistical issue, but that seems to be about the only way you'd be able to expand that time.
Yeah, and some of the things that we as staff have looked at are, should we just have it district-wide for that 6 months and not be in a specific area for a certain time frame depending on the number of homes? And the issues with that would be efficiencies, the loss of efficiencies, the cost would go up, and those were the biggest reasons. So we stuck to the number of days that we had with the old program, the area cleanup where it was in the street, based on the number of homes that we service. So Magna does get, I think, 11 days or 8 days. I apologize, I don't have the calendar in front of me. So the bigger the community, the more days we're in that area. Like, for example, Taylorsville, we're out there for almost a full month, and same with Mill Creek. So we have that 6 month time frame to deliver the service. We could certainly evaluate again if you as a board wanted to give that direction to look at it, to do it district-wide during that 6 months and try to get a cost versus what we're doing now.
I'm interested in the usage. As you bring up like it's based on population. We give a bigger window of time for a larger population area, which makes sense surface level. But have we overlaid over the last 2 years the usage data? I mean, Taylorsville may be a larger area, but are they using the program as heavily as maybe some of these smaller areas? And should that come into account? Should that have an impact on amount of time?
I'm not sure how to answer that other than every area does get booked up, and we do fill those slots in every area. So I guess to say that there's 80 containers per day for each area, they do get booked and overbooked everywhere. Did that answer?
Yes.
Okay. I hope that answered.
Did that answer you?
Yeah, I can. Wait, Pam, I can circle up afterwards. If there's a way that we can see how many requests we're getting versus how many we were able to fill, that would be nice too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that we can do for 2020. I can bring that back if you'd like me to.
That'd be good.
And I would make the note, although this doesn't make a lot of the customers really happy, that getting some of that data and being able to do this type of analysis is something that we can do with the reservation program that you can't or wouldn't do. That flexibility that wouldn't really exist with the old program. So, yep, might not make everyone who wants the containers back out on the street the old way happy, but Yeah, this type of data mining would not be possible with the old system.
And I guess my recommendation then would be that we just take the data and then we try and fine tune our process to maximize the use and the benefit to all of the communities the best that we
Absolutely.
can.
Okay. We can bring that data back next month. And that's when the area cleanup is going to kick off this next month. It'll be rolling by the time we meet again.
Yeah.
And I think Tessa.
Oh, Tessa, do you have a question?
So I wanted to echo just some of the comments that have already been made in regard to the area cleanup. And just wanted to put out some of the specific concerns that I've heard at Metro Council meetings from our residents. Some of which are going to be, like we've already talked about, you know, it's a new way of doing things, so it's definitely going to shake up the program. Others are very valid concerns where we are. So one of the biggest things was most people were really happy with the reservation process rather than just having them all dropped. The biggest issue we face here is when they're on the streets, we have super narrow roads. So our emergency crews, things like that, can't get by very easily. But the bigger factor is we share driveways. So there's a few houses up here that do not share driveways, but the majority of them do share driveways, and they're pretty narrow driveways. It hasn't been a concern for me. Me and my neighbor got together. We found a date that worked for us. We were able to drop the container in the driveway and park alternatively. Other people aren't as close with their neighbors or don't feel that their neighbors are as approachable as mine. So they're having more of an issue with having those driveways blocked, especially when you have households that have more than one vehicle, which is pretty typical here. And you also have the issues with parking out on the streets. So I wanted to make sure to echo just what we heard from Representative Barney there in regard to just making sure that we fine tune the details we are receiving and being able to maximize this, because I think it's a great program and I do know that we use it here quite often. But to just take that into consideration as we're moving forward, if there's any type of, you know, think tank process we can come up with for Copperton, because they're very grateful for the program. I've heard a lot of great things about it. I think our time that we have here, I think anytime somebody hears 24 hours and it's during the week, they're constantly going to have the complaint of, I don't have enough time or I work. But definitely the shared driveway is a concern here. We have an issue with it. I've brought the issue up a few times. I'm not quite sure on what a great solution would be that works for, you know, the residents that are saying this and for Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. So just wanted to make sure that I put that out there for the residents. I do think that once we put them out on the street, I have to agree that they do become a little bit overfilled, especially on certain blocks. So having them, you know, alternatively having them in driveways does deter out of that, you know, picking from the dumpsters and also overfilling them. Rental properties here. So one of the other concerns that was brought to my attention is having a harder time, especially when these renters are working with rental agencies and not individual landlords, that they're having a really hard time getting those reserved because they're not the homeowner. So I, again, don't have a wonderful solution for you, but just something to bring up to the rest of the board. If anybody has some great ideas or solutions on how we can go about it, it's your process for them to be able to get that. Because again, have that, you know, small window of reservation, and sometimes we're running into people who are running out of time trying to contact the proper individual to get those reserved. And that was my feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Tessa. Laurie, do you have a comment?
Yes, actually, my question and a comment. First of all, I'm kind of curious, how did we actually contact people to take the surveys? Were the surveys given specifically because they interacted with us already and it was at a time of interaction or at the end of an interaction? Or was it sent out to in bills? Or I mean, how did that work exactly? That's one part I didn't catch.
Sure, I can speak to that. So the survey invitations for the customer survey were sent out to all email addresses we had for customers who have emails associated with their accounts. And then for those who do not have emails associated with their accounts, we sent out a random sample of 10,000 postcard invitations to customers throughout the district. This was not triggered or associated with any previous interaction. This was just purely random customer sampling. We reached out to them. And then additionally, there was a link provided via the district's website and social media through which customers could take the survey if they sought it out themselves and had not received a random sample invitation.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I might just say that my experience with it this last year was kind of interesting because by the time I got my postcard, our area was already booked out. And mind you, it was because I was out of town for 2 days, so I didn't get my mail till 2 days later after everybody else got theirs. But I was surprised how quickly it booked out. And so I went on a waiting list. You know, for me, that's kind of how it worked. And then I got notification 2 days before it was coming. So there's a bit of a scramble going, oh, it's coming. So I don't know how that works normally, but I was thrilled to get it, thrilled to have it, thrilled to be able to have that waiting list opportunity. I just was surprised how quickly it booked out in our area.
That's good feedback. And I did the same. I knew that my week was coming, but I was out of town for a couple of days, and when I got back, I'm like, oh, there's only 1 day left. But maybe that's part of it, maybe stretching the time in between the postcard and actually booking, and the same with the waiting list, making sure we notify a little bit quicker so people know, just extending those times a little bit.
Okay.
That seems good that people are using it that fast, that the minute they're getting it, rather than waiting and dragging it out and then hoping to get in. I mean, I understand, yeah, you happen to be gone that day, but I think it's awesome to hear that people are using it and reacting that fast on setting their reservations.
Yeah. I think it indicates that maybe people are liking it, are using it, you know, and you always get feedback. It seems like you get feedback from people who are like, wow, that was great, or you get feedback from people who are like, that was terrible. So sometimes it skews a little bit. And so kind of the reading between the lines is exactly that people do like it, and they're aware that they need to book up fast, and they're glad that, I don't know how to read that, but sometimes it's Okay, any others? Okay, well, thank you for all those who participated in that. We'll look forward to some additional feedback next board meeting on some of these questions and keep moving forward with that.
Madam Chair, I believe that Jim Bradley is on, I believe.
Oh, Jim, if you're on, we're going to go ahead and move to 4.1, if that's all right with you.
Well, it is just fine with me. I have some electricians showing up real quick, so this is very good timing. Thank you.
You're lucky, not many people get an electrician.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, this is item 4.1, recognition and resolution for retiring board member Jim Bradley. Do you want to read the resolution?
If you want to.
Okay, whereas the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District, formerly known as Salt Lake County Special Service District, was established in January 1977 by the Salt Lake County Commissioners and renamed the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District effective January 1st, 2013, and whereas on November 10th, 2009, that's a long time ago, the Salt Lake County Council created an Administrative Control Board to govern the district effectively January 1st, 2010, and whereas Jim Bradley served as a founding board member until January of 2013, and whereas Jim Bradley was appointed by the County Council in January 2017 to represent the county, and whereas this honorable board member has served his respective constituents faithfully and diligently, and whereas the board has been effective in governing the district and the waste and recycling collection services for its 86,000 households, and whereas this honorable board member has now retired from the board, and whereas this district wishes to express appreciation to this board member for his many years of dedicated service, and now therefore be it resolved by the board that this member is appreciated and recognized. We applaud all the efforts of the board members and district staff.
Yay.
Well, that's very kind of you. 13 years, I can't believe I've been on the board. You should have thrown me off much earlier. Anyway, thank you. It's been a good ride, and it's been a great organization, and it was always made us look good. So thank you all, and thank you, Pam.
You're welcome, Jim. I just want to take a moment and thank you personally. You have been dedicated to me and the team and the district residents, and I just want to thank you for your years of service personally. It's been fun.
Well, it's my pleasure. So thank you very much. All right. Well, that's it for me, I guess, right? All right. Y'all take care.
Actually, one
You're
more
in good
thing, Jim.
hands. Pardon?
One more thing, Jim.
Yes.
Since Jim was the one that talked to me about taking on this role for him, I just wanted to point out I've learned a couple things from Jim that I think this group ought to know about. Number one, he's been fabulous to work with since I've come on this board, and since I've come on the council specifically, actually, and has been very good at answering questions. His policy advisor has been great at mentoring us and helping us work through this, regardless of which side of the aisle we are on. So that's been wonderful to work with. Second, I've learned that whiskey kills everything. And so if you're sick, that's what you're supposed to take. Third, I have learned that a lot of respect for Jim. So I want to just take an opportunity to tell him thank you for his service on the board, and ask that this group come during the public meeting on this Tuesday or the next meeting after that, and we present this there as well. And as chair, I can get away with that. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Larry. Those are very kind remarks. I appreciate that. And let me tell the other board members that you're in very, very good company with Larry taking my place, probably better. So that's good. Well, if that's all, I'm going to go see what these electricians are going to charge me.
Good luck.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you again so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Tessa, you have your hand raised. Did you have a comment to make?
No, I don't think my hand was put down after my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I too want to express appreciation for Jim, and that's a long time of dedicated service, and we really appreciate all he's done for the district. I will accept a motion to adopt this resolution, and may I just interject, just because sometimes it's hard with some online, when you make a motion or a second, if you'll just state your name prior to that, that would be great.
Tom DeSirent, Mill Creek City Council. I would like to make a motion to accept this resolution. Is that the right wording?
Adopt, yeah. Perfect.
To adopt this resolution.
Dan Gibson Holiday, I second.
Okay, perfect. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that resolution passes. We will go on to item number 4.3, Salt Lake County Council's approval to reorganize Woodford as a local district and next steps by the county and the state. Rachel.
Yeah, so this is just an update. For those of you that don't know, I'm trying to speak loud because I think the microphones are further from me than the county council met last week on Tuesday and voted to approve of our reorganization of Woodford to a local district. That meeting went really well. It was a public hearing, and no one from the public came to make comments, so it happened pretty fast. In advance of the meeting, we had several of our local community councils and the unincorporated areas write letters in support of our reorganization, which just kind of went to support and bolster the approvals that
Hey, Terry, what's up?
already made.
We have got a question from Patrick Belmont about the fire.
Can you mute Tom? Yep, Tom. There we go.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't sure if you were making a comment to us. I was just saying that those letters that we received from the community councils of the unincorporated areas just went to bolster the approvals that all of your municipalities had already provided last year. So obviously we had a lot of support for this. So yeah, the motion to approve that happened at the meeting, and our next step is the county will send the notice of the reorganization to the Lieutenant Governor, along with a copy of their resolution and a plat map that has been prepared. It's already done, showing our boundaries. And then the Lieutenant Governor will sign a certification, and that's when it is official. So I suspect that'll be happening shortly. We'll make sure to follow up and make sure that that gets done. That's all I have to say. I don't know if Pam, you have anything else, or Laurie, who was there and voted for that, if anyone wants to make any other comments.
Hey, do you know who at the county is getting that sent off to the office?
So I spoke with Lisa Hartman after, and she asked if I would prepare a draft of that, because I've done those several times, and send it to her and to Diane Orcutt and Mitch Hart. I couldn't remember his last name.
Yeah.
So I did do that last week. I have not heard back. So if I don't hear back again, I will follow up with them.
Okay, and I'll follow up with them as well. I just wanted to know where that was at.
Yeah, I was wondering as well, but we'll find out one way or the other.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts? Okay, I'll pass along my thanks too. That was a few years in the making, so thanks for all the people who participated in that, and thanks to the County Council for getting that done and moving forward. All right, we'll move on to 4.4, revisions to district policy, 16.4, abatement or refund of charge service fees. Pam.
Okay, so you scroll to that, past the, I came to you as a board last month with a refund request, and then I also asked a follow-up to be able to revise the policy to allow me as the general manager the full 4 year refund or credit to residents' accounts. And so I worked with Rachel and Paul. We tried to keep this very simple. So there's basically the addition of the controller or finance director shall verify each refund prior to the final approval by the general manager. And understand there are at least 2 steps prior to that before it gets to Matt Ferguson, our new controller, or Paul, and before it comes to me. So there's probably about 4 steps roughly before it comes to me for final approval. And then we just deleted out the part that I'm only eligible for the 2 years or 8 billing cycles, and then we needed approval from you as a board for those other additional up to 4 total years. Hope that made sense, but this is back before you. I'm just looking for questions, or if there's no questions, we can have a approval.
I have a question, if that's all right.
Of course.
This is Laurie. One of my questions on this specifically is 4 years typically how far back you go on something like this? Is there a reason for that time frame?
Go ahead. Rachel's going to speak.
Yeah, the reason we picked 4 years is because that matches up with the statute of limitations of how long someone would be able to make a claim for, past fees, one way or the other, either us or them. And so we've kind of limited it at that. And just, our past practice has been to let Pam to automatically approve up to 2 years, but previously there had been a thought that if they want to go to the full 4 years, we should bring it to the board. But the board has never declined to approve up to 4 years when we brought them to the board, and the decision was just kind of this. There's really no reason not to just let Pam have the approval authority for the full 4 years. We always approve it, and it got kind of cumbersome to have to keep bringing these to the board. And the thought, I'm just reflecting what the board said last month, so please someone correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but the thought was just that this was not really a board level item that needed to be approved every time this came before Pam, and we should just let her have the full authority. And the dollar amounts, even up to the 4 years, was so small that the thought of the board last month was that this just didn't need to be coming to the board for those determinations. But yeah, the 4 years is tied to just kind of statute of limitations amount. It was kind of a reasonable number of years that we thought would be worth going to. But in some of these instances, they actually go, the issue has actually lasted longer than even the 4 years. But, you know, there's some responsibility for both parties to be, you know, monitoring these things. And so that's where we kind of set the line is, even if it's been going on for a long, long time, at some point you just got to draw a line somewhere. Can't pay back for 10 years, you know.
So will we still get information or updates on those that have been refunded so we can see what's happening and how often?
If you would like, I could bring back, I don't know, by once a year, or how often would you like to?
I think once
I
a
would
year
think
is
it would,
great.
wouldn't it show up on the finances and stuff? Maybe a list of what it is when it's in the financial reports. I'm a little bit new, so I'm asking these questions because I'm not sure.
It could show up as part of the quarterly report, probably.
That'd be great.
Paul, do you have that direction then? Can you add that into your quarterly reports?
Yes, we can do that.
I think it'd just be helpful to see how many and how often and how much. So.
Okay.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion to move forward on this.
I'd make a motion to move forward with the worst case, making that change to that policy.
Okay, we have a motion.
I will second.
Perfect. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. That passes.
Thank you.
Item number 4.5, Open and Public Meeting Act training. Rachel.
It's your favorite time of the year, Open and Public Meetings Act training. I just, at the outset, just want to comment that the reason we do this in our board is that the Utah Code does require that the presiding officer, which in our case is our board chair, is required to ensure that the members of the body are provided with annual training on the Open and Public Meetings Act. There's different ways we could accomplish this. We could, you know, reach out to each one of you and make sure that you've received the training on your own or through your other organizations. There's some online trainings you could do, but just as a practical matter, that's a bit of an administrative burden to have our team having to coordinate and follow up with all of you individually, making sure that it happens. When we do it in our board meeting, it's just a real obvious way for us to check that box and make sure you definitely all got your training. And it also shows up when we have our audits that they are often looking at that. Did you do a training? So that's why we're here today. So I know that this is a repeat for a lot of you. Some of you might be newer and may not be quite as familiar with these rules. So bear with us as we go through this new stuff. I'm also going to point out a couple small items that were changed during this year's legislative session. And then the last preliminary comment I'll make is that some of the rules are slightly different for districts as compared to your municipalities or the county. So if you have questions or if something sounds a little off or different from what you're used to, I'm happy to explain that. But I'll try to point out those areas as well so that you're not super confused or worried about whether your other organizations are doing it right. But the law was purposely, in some areas, kind of given different requirements for different levels of entities. Local districts, while we're rather large, there are lots of super small districts in the state, and efforts have been made to make sure that the requirements are somewhat more simplified for us than maybe some bigger organizations. So just to start, the Open and Public Meetings Act is Title 52, Chapter 4 of the Utah Code. The purpose of the Open and Public Meeting Act is that the state has decided that political subdivisions exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business And it's the intent of the legislature that political subdivisions take their actions openly and conduct their deliberations openly. So both discussions and actions must be done openly, and that's the default rule. And then as we go down, we'll find areas where you can stray from that rule. But for the most part, your actions and your deliberations must be conducted openly. The key definitions, the definition of a meeting is the convening of a public body, such as this board, with a quorum present. So there needs to be a majority of board members for the purpose of discussing, receiving public comments, or acting upon a public matter over which the public body has jurisdiction or advisory power. Meetings include workshops or executive sessions. We don't really use those terms here. The reason that the code threw those in is because some organizations kind of use those more antiquated terms to try to differentiate between like a work session and an actual meeting where they were making decisions. The point of the Open and Public Meetings Act is any and all meetings, as long as they have a quorum of the board present. Those are public meetings regardless. Convening electronically is also a meeting, as we have well learned these last 2 years. And even site visits or traveling tours, if you have a quorum. Sorry, did you say that again? Sorry, my spirit. Just take that.
You don't have to say that again.
Site visits and traveling tours, again, if you have a quorum present, those would technically be required to be public meetings, and you would just need to post that those are happening on your public meeting notice. A meeting is convened. Convene is a defined term, means the calling together of a public body by a person authorized to do so for the express purpose of discussing or acting upon a subject over which you have jurisdiction. So meetings are open to the public unless they are closed in accordance with law, and I'll get into closed meetings in just a moment. Public notice must be given of meetings at least 24 hours in advance. The meeting notice must include the agenda. The agenda must provide reasonable specificity of the topics to be discussed. Each topic must have its own agenda item, must have the date, time, and place of the meeting. Public notice also should be given once a year of the entity's annual meeting schedule. The notice must be posted at the principal office or location of the meeting on the Utah Public Notice website. And there is still provision in the law that says it must be required or provided to a newspaper or local media correspondent. But then a later part of the act says that just by posting it on the public notice website satisfies that, because media correspondents are able to subscribe to those notices and get them sent to them automatically. So presumptively, if you post it on the public notice website, that's considered providing it to media correspondents. Public bodies are encouraged to use additional means as well. So they haven't gone full out and required you to post them on your websites, but that is best practice and common practice among almost every district nowadays. It used to be that even small districts often didn't have websites, but I think you'd find very few that don't even have a website of some sort nowadays. So obviously we post them on our website, but more and more that's also being posted to social media pages as well. Not required, but encouraged. Discussion and final action may not be taken on any matter that was not listed on the agenda. However, at the discretion of the board chair, the public body may discuss a topic that was raised by a member of the public, that even if it was not on the agenda. So if a member of the public comes and speaks during public comment period, the board chair can decide to allow the board to have discussion on that, but more often than not, comments are often just taken under advisement, but that's up to the board chair. However, decisions may still not be taken on those items unless there's an agenda item listed for that. You may have emergency meetings and not post notice of the meeting within 24 hours. That's an exception if there's an emergency need for a meeting, but you must give the best practicable notice possible of the time, place, and topics, and must make an attempt to notify all the board members. We've never had an occasion to need an emergency meeting, so it doesn't come up very often. Minutes and recordings. Minutes are required as well as a recording, and the recording may either be audio or audio and visual. The minutes must include the date, time, place, the names of the members present and absent, the substance of all matters discussed and decided, the name of each member of the public who provided comments or testimony, and a record of each vote taken by the public body and who voted for and against those motions. Pending minutes, as well as approved minutes and the recording are all public records. Any member of the public can request copies of those. If an individual presents or provides documents or even electronic information to the board should get a copy of those, and those will also become public records. So for instance, our training or our information we received from Y2 Analytics today, those documents were presented at the board meeting. Those will become part of the public record as well. Here's one difference between cities and districts. Pending minutes must be made available to the public in a reasonable time after holding your open meeting. The rules are different for cities and counties. There's a specific timeline, and I don't remember exactly what it is because I don't deal with cities, but it's like 3 days or something that you... 5? Okay.
No, I said wow.
Oh, yeah. that your draft minutes must be made available to the public. Ours just say that they must be made a reasonable time. Pending minutes must be approved, as we do each month, and the approved minutes, even for districts, must be made available at least 3 business days after approval. The audio recording must be complete and unedited. Audio recordings must also be made available within 3 days after holding the meeting. Now, made available just means, if a member of the public were to come asking for it, it is available to them. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be posted somewhere. Minutes and recordings must be permanently maintained. Now I'm going to get into closed meetings. A closed meeting may be held if a quorum is present and 2/3 of the members of the board vote to close the meeting. And there are specific types of discussions that may be had during a closed meeting, which I'll get into shortly. During a closed session, you can have discussions, but you may not make any motions or approve anything during the closed session, whether it be a resolution, contract, appointing an employment offer, or appointing a new board member. Those sorts of things cannot happen during the closed session. The only motion that may be made during the closed session is the motion to end the closed session and go back to open. The following information must be publicly announced before you go into the open meeting. You must announce the reason for holding the closed meeting, the location where the meeting will be held, if, for instance, you were going to walk out and go to a different room, and then a roll call vote would need to be recorded as to who voted for or against going into the closed meeting. There's a long list of things that can be discussed during a closed meeting. Not all of them pertain to districts. I'll just go through a few of them that are the most common. Discussing the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual. Those can happen during closed meetings. That's oftentimes we do those when we are discussing a personnel issue, if someone is needing to be terminated, or if there is any sort of litigation or claims being filed by an employee or an ex-employee. Those often are done during closed sessions. Discussions to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation can also be in a closed session. Purchase, exchange, or lease of real estate or sale of real estate can be done in a closed session. Discussions of security deployments, security devices and systems, those can be closed. Investigations regarding allegations of criminal misconduct, although that could also very well fall under the topic of discussing the character of an individual. Discussing procurement and trade secrets can also, in certain circumstances, be done in closed session. Even if it's a closed session, a recording still must be made unless the discussion is solely about discussing the character, professional competence, physical or mental health of an individual, or the security, deployment of security. Those are the only two topics that can be done in a closed session and not be recorded. Otherwise, closed sessions are still recorded. They're recorded separately and they are kept private, but if there was ever a challenge to the closed session, that recording would be provided to a judge and the judge could determine whether it was done properly. The transcripts, if any, and recordings of closed meetings are protected under GRAMA, Government Records and Management Act. Now I'll discuss the electronic meetings rules. There's always been the allowance to have electronic meetings so long as the organization has a policy allowing electronic meetings. Historically, electronic meetings were just those where we would have the regular board meeting, but a member would call in, or now more recently, we have members calling in through WebEx. So you still must have an adopted policy allowing electronic meetings. One new requirement under just this recent legislative session, it says that your policies allowing electronic meetings must establish the conditions under which a member is included in calculating a quorum. So I can work with Pam in making sure that our policy includes that. I think it's not really a question to me. I think that's kind of obvious to most people that if you're participating electronically, you're still counted towards the quorum. But I guess some questions were asked about that, and so we're now required to put that into our policy of what our plan is for that. Are we going to count those people for a quorum or not? My recommendation would be yes. You know, we've always treated them as fully present and participating board members. So you're prohibited from using, the policy that you adopt can go into whether you're prohibited from using electronic meetings for certain topics, for example, budget meetings. You can require a quorum to be present at the anchor location. Currently, I don't think that we require that, but that's something you're allowed to do. There's all these sorts of things that the code goes into saying, like what you're allowed to do with an electronic meeting. I'm not going to get into that in too much detail. Notice that you're having an electronic meeting must be included in the public notice. For this reason, you'll notice both on our agendas and on the agendas of a lot of organizations, there's sort of a blanket statement we state at the top that's saying board members may appear electronically. That's kind of been the law for a long time, and we've done that for a long time. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, some changes were made, and the new option was added for having electronic meetings without an anchor location, meaning there's no physical place for a member of the public to go. That's going to be continuing even past COVID-19 now. So if the board chair makes a written determination that a meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present, or if the facility where the meetings are typically held have been closed due to those same health reasons, then the meeting may be held entirely electronically, and there must be a method for members of the public to also join electronically. That has never been used for this board, even during the height of the pandemic. I think we always had our anchor location and just a couple people here. But if we were to do that, the board chair would need to make an announcement at the beginning of the meeting that that's what was happening, and you must allow members of the public a way to get in online. The second change that was made just in this recent legislative session is that except for cases of unanimous votes, a public body conducting electronic voting must take the vote by roll call. So if everyone is agreeing, you can just say, yeah, it was unanimous. But if it turns out that you get some yays and nays, then you need to do a roll call to make sure that we really record who is saying what, because sometimes it's sort of hard on electronic. That's the only other minor change this year that applies to us. I know this is getting long. I'm getting close. Chance social meetings and electronic meetings. Chance gatherings or social gatherings are not subject to the Act. But those meetings may not be used to circumvent the provisions of the law. So if you have an annual Christmas party or holiday party, you're not necessarily required to post notice of that because those are social gatherings. But certainly you would not want to be discussing in depth the business of the district, and you definitely would not be able to make decisions during those meetings. An important one that always comes up, I get questions about this every year, the code says that nothing in the act shall be construed to restrict a member of a public body from transmitting an electronic message to other members of the public body at a time when the public body is not convened in an open meeting. What this means is that you are fully allowed to email and text message other members of the board as long as you're not in a meeting. We don't want side conversations happening through text message while you're in a meeting. That is strictly prohibited. Outside of a meeting, you're allowed to send emails, and even if it's a quorum on those emails, the law technically allows you to do this. Now, we try to, as attorneys, advise you to be extremely careful with those. I know some attorneys will just flat out say don't do it because we don't want to raise red flags to the legislature and have them say this is becoming a problem. So some attorneys will say, just, don't reply all, just reply to one person or something like that if an email has to go out to a group. Technically, you're allowed to do it, though, but we just like to really pin that down. We don't want discussions happening. But if you need to make an announcement to everyone or send something to everyone to review, that's fine.
Rachel, can I ask a question on that?
Yes, Laurie.
So I know some chairs of different boards I've been involved in who are all on electronically oftentimes have us throw in the comments or text when we want to speak so we can get them in an order. Is that not allowed then because of you might be texting or sending electronic information to somebody to get into a speaking order? How does that work, and is that not an option?
I've never been asked that question before. Let me just repeat what the code says. So the code shall not be construed to restrict a member of a public body from transmitting an electronic message to other members of the body at a time when the public body is not convened in an open meeting. So if it is during an open meeting, the code does apply, and I would be very careful with that, is what I would advise if I was the attorney. I would say as long as it is solely as a method to raise your hand, you might be able to get away with that, but certainly no discussion whatsoever may happen. If it's just a matter of raising your hand, you might be able to get away with that. My second point is ask your attorney for that, because I'm not going to advise you as to what you're allowed to do there, but yeah, I would be careful with that, but as long as it's not a discussion, you might be okay. Penalties, one that very luckily has never been an issue here. A person may be removed from a meeting if the person is willfully disrupting the meeting and to the extent that orderly conduct is seriously compromised. The point of that is, although we do have open meetings specifically so that members of the public can come in and listen, if a member of the public is being extremely disruptive or dangerous, that person may be asked to leave, and that doesn't violate the Open and Public Meetings Act. I will also note it does say a person, it doesn't say a member of the public, so that applies to you all as well. If any of you become violent or disruptive, we may ask you to leave. Final actions that are taken in violation of this law are voidable by a court. So if you do something, if you make a decision that violates this law, let's say you took a vote on something that was not on the agenda, a court could void that action. However, a lawsuit to void an action because of an open meetings law violation must be made within 90 days of the action. So that is an extremely limited window for a person to complain that you did something incorrectly. So if you do something incorrectly, which I know will never be purposeful with this group because we're all such morally upstanding people, we're never intending to circumvent the law, but if we do make an accidental mistake, you can rest assured that after 90 days, no one could complain about it anyway. But if you, a member of the public body, knowingly or intentionally violate the law, that is technically a Class B misdemeanor. So I will state that. Again, I've never seen that actually enforced, but that's there. So that's everything. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I don't see any hands up or any comments, so I assume that everyone's good with that. Thank you for that nice, thorough discussion, well, training. We're going to move to item 4.6, review the new interlocal agreement with the town of Alta for recycling collections.
Thank you so much. So just some background on this particular interlocal. We first entered into an agreement back in 2012 when we were a division under the county to provide recycling collections for the town of Alta. One of the main reasons we were willing to do that, because it's such a long way away, is that we wanted to make sure we were covering our costs first, and then we also were servicing Snowbird for recycling. There's a resort down at the base of Little Cottonwood Canyon called Wasatch Resort, so we service that as well. So in looking at the cost analysis, we put together, and just briefly, if you'll scroll to the next one, I believe, down just a little bit to the payments. There we go. So the whole objective of going forward with a new agreement, and it is a 10-year agreement, was to make sure that we're covering our costs. And just charging them per container didn't quite capture all of our costs. And so I worked with the town administrators who worked with their mayor and council to come up with this new way of billing them and charging them. And it was to make sure, again, that we're covering everything. So just a history of the resorts or the canyons, because Brighton is very similar to this. There's a peak season in the winter when skiers are going up there, so there's more containers that we provide. And so this is basically based on a flat fee per month going through the whole annual period, versus we're billing them for 6 months a certain rate and then another rate for the other 6 months. It's just a flat rate so that we can all keep track of it. So we took the cost of 2021 and looked at escalating that cost by 4% to make sure we capture our costs going forward. And just so you know, this agreement will start May 1, but I've put it on a calendar year, so the actual expiration won't be until December of 20, where is it at? Or the expiration? Anyway, so 32, thank you, there we go, 2032. Yeah, so there's a price escalation every year. Each calendar year, we're going to raise their rates 3%, and that's based on our cost increases, maintenance, fuel, labor, which is a piece of it. And then I put a clause in there to say that if for any reason we need to raise it higher than that 3%, that we will notice them within 60 days prior to that next calendar year. In looking with our finance team, Paul, and then Dustin's the one that will be in charge of the services up there, everyone felt comfortable with this. And this is just information for you this month. The town will need to have a couple of processes on their part, so I would bring it back next month for adoption. But I wanted to accept any direction or questions at this time.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions?
Great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea on this.
And especially because we get a lot of cardboard out of the canyon, and it's worth some money. And it always had a value even through the hard times. So it cardboard carried us for a long time, and now we're going to get the revenue for it. So
good.
It'll help. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to 4.7, dates and times for board members to tour waste management recycling facility. Renee?
Yes. When I first came aboard last July, August, one of the first conversations I had with board member Barbieri was possibly putting together some dates that we could schedule an event for you all to come and tour one of the facilities. And so we've been in touch with Waste Management, and their recycle facility was state of the art. And we've identified 4 different dates that we could choose from to do a tour of the facility to see how the recycling material is handled. And I did make a couple of notes in here that the tours last approximately 20 minutes. And there's a 6-person max limit per tour. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't all go on the same day. It would just
Stagger.
people at a time, you know, and when the first 6 come out, then the second 6 would go in, et cetera. Or we could split it up, you know, in a few different days. So I just wanted to get this on the agenda today to where you kind of think about it and noodle it over and decide what you would like to do. Any questions?
I guess I just wonder how we can gather, how are you looking for us to provide this information to you? Like, do you have like, I don't know, at the city we always do these polls and it sends out and everybody can rate, you know, this works for me. Would that be the easiest way for you to get that information?
Yes, excellent idea. I can go ahead after this meeting, send out an email that has the 4 different dates as an option on there, and you can vote on that. And then what we'll do is majority wins on the top 2, maybe, and then we can narrow it down to that top one. Does that sound like a good plan?
You guys good with that?
Is there a specific time you're looking for on those days?
Good question.
1 o'clock p.m. 1 o'clock p.m. So they start at 1, and again, it depends on how many folks that we have there, you know, how long we'll be there. So we'll see what the poll says.
Okay.
And then
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, good.
And then if there's going to be 8, we'll make sure we notice that you're all taking a tour.
Right.
Rachel said, we'll make sure we follow the law.
Sure.
Yeah. And if you'll send that to staff as well, because Rachel just leaned over and said she would like to go.
For sure.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be good.
Absolutely. And while we're on this topic, McKenna, who, as you all met last month, she's our new sustainability coordinator. She wanted to talk real quick while we're talking about recycling about our recycling app. So I'll hand it off over to McKenna.
Yeah, we just wanted to give a little refresher on the WFWRD app that can be downloaded. If you just scan that link with your phone and scroll down, it can be downloaded on iOS and Android. And this app, you can type in your address. I don't live in the district, but I have it, and I just typed in one of my family members' addresses in Taylorsville. And it gives your schedule, your collection schedule for all 3 services. And then we can also send mass reminders, updates, and even recycling tips, and we can also customize it for the different municipalities. For example, if like Harriman is struggling with packaging, we can send out a recycling tip and it'll just come up as a notification. Or we can send updates, like in the winter, if snow is affecting collection, we can send a mass update on collection times. And then what we don't do, but I just thought of it as we were in this board meeting, was send reminders, or maybe right when the container reservation opens, we can just send a reminder right away to the phones.
That's cool, because it has been on social media.
Yeah, it's been on social media, but not everyone checks that. But if everyone is setting their reminders for this, or their notifications, we can send it right when it opens, and then they'll have the opportunity to get that.
Right.
My name's Kate from Brighton. How does this app, it was built now, because at Brighton we just have a dumpster that's specifically for recycling materials. Does this help us as far as the app is giving more direction as alternatives? Because we do have a very high recycling rate. And it's difficult for, when our customers find that they can't recycle, because we have, the select number of bins that are available. And with, with some changes, putting a lid on it that gives you a slot to put things in, so we get people to break down the cardboard.
Yeah.
So we're not, so the container is not being filled, incorrectly, or, trying to assist, assist them in managing that. So is there something within this app that we could direct? I mean, obviously, the information of how, but when I can't do the how part, what else, what are my other options? Because we have limited space and limited abilities, so.
Yes, that is a great question. So the other feature of this app is that Recycle Right tool that we also have on our website. And with that tool, you can type in a material, and then under that material to give you the best option, which might be to put it in your blue curbside bin, and then under that it'll have alternative options. So for example, styrofoam, that does not go in our blue curbside bins, but you can recycle it at Marco Foam, so it'll have the link to that with their phone number and their address. Does that answer your question, kind of?
Yeah, to some degree. It's just that we don't have curbside.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So
The gray bin.
Just the gray bin.
the things that would go in curbside, like cardboard, if it can't fit in there or something, underneath you can put, it'll say alternative option, Rocky Mountain Recycling. You can just take it there, and they have a dumpster that you can throw any recyclables in.
And the vision of the app has been to get a specific part for Brighton residents only, and so we just haven't evolved there yet. And so the kind of coming in new, I apologize, have no touch base about that. So the vision is, Keith, that we would have that specifically for Brighton residents.
Because most of the residents know what to do because they're long-term. It's our short-term individuals, because we have a fair amount of properties that are short-term rentals. Although the crews, they take care of a lot of that, but when they have extended stays, trying to best advise those visitors on how to, and that's part of, we've had discussions at council on how to communicate, through the short-term rental programs, what we're trying to advise the owners and the management companies on conveying that information. And sometimes it's difficult, but having the app where you can have them incorporate the QR code at the site, at the home, so that if the people are interested in recycling, the how-to. So it's a challenge based upon our circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very unique of the canyon.
Yeah, I can look more into that. We're also exploring adding different features in the exploration phase, but I'll definitely look into developing that for Brighton more.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool if you just had a QR code they can have at the location, and whenever a guest goes in, they just scan that and they know exactly what to do. That would be...
Put it right on the can or the container.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thanks for everyone's participation on that. We do not have a need for closed session today, correct? Okay, number 6 is any other board business. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share or discuss? Okay. Item number 7, request items for the next board meeting on Monday, April 25th. We have our 2022 first quarter financial report, and we have a report and recommendations on the phase 3 of the salary adjustments based on experience. That's good to move into that. Adoption of the interlocal agreement with the town of Alta Recycling Collections, which we discussed today. And then the status on WFWRD's reorganization through the Lieutenant Governor's Office, just a follow-up on that. Okay. And then just a couple others I noted, just the follow-up on the different survey questions. And then then just to follow up on the policy for electronic meetings, just making sure we're in compliance with that. And then have a hand up too. It looks like, Laurie, did you have a question?
It's fine. You're good.
Okay.
It was answered.
Sorry. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else for the next board meeting that wasn't covered? Okay. That being said, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Anna Barbieri, Taylorsville.
A second.
Second, Diane Turner.
Okay, awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Never anybody opposed, so we're good. Thank you. Thanks for everybody's participation. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Exactly. I tried to put it in, did I put it in the wrong format?